Hi guys, let's continue with ABHYAAS Test 2 UPSC Prelims 2020 from VISION IAS. Question number 26. Consider the following statements regarding a medieval Indian ruler. Number 1. He lost his life during an event which was believed to be an accident. Number 2. After his death, it was his son who immediately succeeded him. Number 3. He ruled for 5 years and was a contemporary of the Sufi saint Nizamuddin Aulia. The statements given above refer to which of the following rulers? Number A. Jalaluddin Khilji. Number B. Qutb-ud-Din Aibak. Number C. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Number D. Humayun. So the correct answer is C. That is Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq 1320 to 25 was the first ruler and the founder of the Tughlaq dynasty. From a common individual, he rose to the position of a provincial legislative leader of Dinapur under Mubarak Khalji. He repulsed the Mongol trespassers many times. He murdered Khusro Khan and turned into the Sultan. Khusro Khan, the last ruler of the Khilji administration, was executed by Ghazni Malik, who raised the throne accepting the title Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. It was not a simple throne for him, as confusion was winning all around, and the far-off areas were attempting to pronounce their freedom. But Ghiyasuddin raised the kingdom nicely with his intelligence, capacities, and quality. He succeeded in keeping up peace and request. He was a wise and liberal ruler. He was a contemporary of the Sufi saint Nizamuddin Aulia. Qutb-ud-Din Aibak was born and ruled much earlier, and Humayun came much later. Jalaluddin Khilji was also a contemporary of Nizamuddin Aulia. Ghiyasuddin was not bound to appreciate a long rule. When he came back to Delhi from the Bengal endeavour, he was cheerfully welcomed by his child Junna Khan in the new structure that was exceptionally developed for this reason in Afghanpura, close to his new capital Tughlaqabad. The structure tumbled down and the Sultan died under it in 1325 AD. There is a debate on the inquiry on whether the Sultan's demise was the consequence of some conspiracy or it happened coincidentally. Both Humayun and Qutb-ud-Din Aibak died from accidents. The former fell from a horse while playing polo and the latter fell from his library. But Jalaluddin Khilji was killed by his successor Alauddin Khilji, who was not his son but his nephew and son-in-law. After the death of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, his son Jauna Ulugh Khan succeeded him under the title Muhammad bin Tughlaq in 1325. Qutb-ud-Din Aibak was succeeded by his son-in-law, previously his slave, that is Iltutmish, and Humayun, who died in January 1556, was succeeded by Akbar, crowned as the emperor in February 1556. Hence option C is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 27. An increase in which of the following indicates a worsening twin balance sheet problem involving banks and corporates in India? Number 1, interest coverage ratio of corporates. Number 2, provisioning coverage ratio, that is PCR of banks. Number 3, capital adequacy ratio of banks. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is D, that is none. So all the three statements are not correct. The interest coverage ratio, that is ICR, is a measure of a company's ability to meet its interest payments. The lower the interest coverage ratio, the higher the company's debt burden and the greater the possibility of bankruptcy or default. A lower ICR means fewer earnings are available to meet interest payments and that the business is more vulnerable to increases in interest rates. The higher ratio indicates better financial health as it means that the company is more capable to meeting its interest obligations from operating earnings. On the other hand, a high ICR may suggest a company is too safe and is neglecting opportunities to magnify earnings through leverage. Hence, option 1 is not correct. PCR is the ratio of provisioning to gross non-performing assets and indicates the extent of funds a bank has kept aside to cover loan losses. A high PCR ratio, ideally above 70%, means most asset quality issues have been taken care of and the bank is not vulnerable. Higher the PCR, lower is the unexposed part of the bad debts. Hence, option 2 is not correct. The capital adequacy ratio, that is CAR, is a measurement of a bank's available capital expressed as a percentage of a bank's risk equated. Okay, so CAR, that is capital adequacy ratio, is a measurement of a bank's available capital expressed as a percentage of a bank's risk-weighted credit exposures. A higher capital adequacy ratio means less risky weighted assets. Further, a bank having higher CAR more than the prescribed is considered safer, indicating that it is not aggressive in assuming risk. Hence, option 3 is not correct. So the correct answer is D, which is none. Question number 28. Consider the following countries. Number 1, we have Trinidad and Tobago. Number 2, Suriname. Number 3, Mexico. Number 4, Jamaica. Which of the above are members of the CARICOM, CARICOM, Caribbean Community and Common Market? So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D, that is 1, 2 and 4. That is Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname and Jamaica. In September 2019, the Indian Prime Minister met with 14 leaders of CARICOM group of countries. It was the first ever meeting of PM Modi with CARICOM leaders in a regional format. The CARICOM is an organization of 15 nations and 5 associate members throughout the Americas, having primary objectives to promote economic integration and cooperation among its members, to ensure that the benefits of integration are equitably shared, and to coordinate foreign policy. The geographical boundaries of our community stretch from the Bahama Islands in the north, southward to Guyana and Suriname, both on the north coast of the South American mainland. They also extend from Belize in the west on the Central American mainland to Barbados. the most easterly of the islands. Suriname defines the eastern boundary of the community. Its members include Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, Montserrat, Saint Kitts and Nevis, Saint Lucia, Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. Mexico is not a member, hence option D is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 29. Consider the following statements. Number 1. A food web illustrates the population of predator species within an ecosystem. Number 2, the trophic level of all the species in a food web of a given community is always fixed. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is D. That is neither 1 nor 2. Statement 1 is not correct. Food web is an important ecological concept. Basically, the food web represents feeding relationships within a community. It also implies the transfer of food energy from its source in plants through herbivores to carnivores. However, it does not illustrate the population of predator species within an ecosystem. Normally, food webs consist of a number of food chains meshed together. Each food chain is a descriptive diagram including a series of arrows, each pointing from one species to another, representing the flow of food energy from one feeding group of organisms to another. Food web offers an important tool for investigating the ecological interactions that define energy flows and predator-prey relationships. However, it does not illustrate the population of any species. Food web offers an important tool for investigating the ecological interactions that define energy flows and predator-prey relationships. Statement 2 is not correct. Basal species occupy the lowest trophic level as a primary consumer. They convert inorganic chemicals and use solar energy to generate chemical energy. The second trophic level consists of herbivores. These are the first consumers. The remaining trophic levels include carnivores that consume animals at trophic levels below them. A food web does not illustrate the population or number of any species within a given ecosystem. For example, a snake is both at the third as well as the fourth trophic level. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 30. The recent ban on Chinese mobile applications was implemented under provisions of number A, the National Security Act 1980, number B, the Indian Telegraph Act 1885, number C, Information Technology Act 2000, number D, Indian Wireless Telegraphy Act 1933. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is Information Technology Act 2000. The Ministry of Information Technology, invoking its power under Section 69A of the Information Technology Act 2000, read with the relevant provisions of the Information Technology, Procedure and Safeguards for Blocking of Access of Information by Public Rules 2009, recently blocked 59 Chinese mobile applications like TikTok, Cam Scanner, etc. Hence option C is the correct answer. Section 69A of the Information Technology Act 2000 was introduced by an amendment to the Act in 2008. It gives the central government the power to block public access to any information online, whether on websites or mobile apps. It was done in view of the emergent nature of threats posed by their engagement in activities which were prejudicial to sovereignty and integrity of India, defense of India, security of state, and public order. There were many complaints from various sources, including several reports about the misuse of some mobile apps available on Android and iOS platforms for stealing and surreptitiously transmitting users' data in an unauthorized manner to servers which have locations outside India. The Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, Ministry of Home Affairs, has also sent an exhaustive recommendation for blocking these malicious apps. The Computer Emergency Response Team (CERT-IN) has also received many representations from citizens regarding the security of data and breach of privacy impacting upon public order issues. Likewise, there have been similar bipartisan concerns flagged by various public representatives, both outside and inside the Parliament of India. This move will safeguard the interest of crores of Indian mobile and internet users. This decision is a targeted move to ensure the safety and sovereignty of Indian cyberspace. Now let's come to question number 31. With reference to the Constitution of India, consider the following statements. Number 1. Article 18 places an obligation on both the state and the citizens. Number 2. No law has been made for violation of the prohibition prescribed in Article 18. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is C. That is, both 1 and 2 are correct. As per Article 18, no title, not being a military or academic distinction, shall be conferred by the state. No citizen of India shall accept any title from any foreign state. No person who is not a citizen of India shall, while he holds any office of profit or trust under the state, accept without the consent of the President any title from any foreign state. No person holding any office of profit or trust under the state shall, without the consent of the President, accept any present, emolument, or office of any kind from or under any foreign state. Therefore, the article places an obligation on both the state and the citizen, the former to not recognize or confer a title and the latter to not accept one. It is also to be noted that there is absolutely no penalty for infringement of the above prohibition of titles. Article 18 is merely directory. However, it is on to the Parliament to make laws for dealing with such persons who accept the title in violation of the prohibition prescribed in Article 18. No such law has been passed by the Parliament so far. Hence, both the statements are correct. Now let's come to question number 32. Although one can borrow from outside India, it is not advisable to depend too much on foreign borrowings. Which of the following risks are associated with increased foreign borrowings? Number 1, high current account deficit. Number 2, high inflation. Number 3, exchange rate risk. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, and 3. All of them are correct. The main risk involved in foreign currency borrowings is the risk of rupee depreciation. When an Indian borrower takes a loan in dollars, she has to pay back in dollars. If in the meantime the value of the dollar versus the rupee changes, the loss or gain accrues to the borrower. In addition to the interest rate, the borrower needs to pay back more if the rupee weakens. The borrower is exposed to currency risk. For this reason, borrowing in domestic currency is expected to be safer than borrowing in foreign currency. There has been a persistent outgo from the primary income account, an important part of the current account, of the balance of payments due to India's net international financial liabilities to the rest of the world, that is negative net international investment position. Interest payments on debt liabilities. Payment of interest of FDI enterprises to their parent company abroad. FII debt holdings, external commercial borrowings, ECBs, trade credits, bank overseas borrowings, non-resident deposits, and dividend payouts on non-debt liabilities, that is investment in equity and investment fund shares, accounted for the largest share of total investment income outgo in 2018-19. Too much dependence on foreign borrowings would further increase the outgo from the primary account and widens current account. High current account deficit would result in depreciation of rupee value, which in turn would increase import bill. Thus, higher current account deficit will put pressure on the domestic currency, raise the crude oil bill, and fuel inflation inside the country. Hence, option D is the correct answer. Now, let's come to question number 33. Consider the following statements with reference to the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act 2016. Number 1. It was enacted to manage the funds collected for diverting foreign land for so it was enacted to manage the funds collected for diverting forest land for non-forestry use under Forest Conservation Act 1980. Number 2, it provides for the establishment of a single fund at the central level only. Number 3, the funds cannot be used for leasing and purchase of land for afforestation purposes. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is A. That is 1 and 3 only. So 1 and 3 are correct. Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act 2016 has been enacted to manage the funds collected for compensatory afforestation and the net present value of forest land diverted for non-forestry use under the Forest Conservation Act 1980. Under the provisions of the Forest Conservation Act 1980, when a piece of forest land is diverted for non-forestry purpose like mining or infrastructure, an equal area of revenue land or non-forest land or double the area of degraded forest land has to be used for compensatory afforestation. The land after compensatory afforestation gets notified either as reserved or protected forest, that is RF or PF. Hence statement 1 is correct. The Act provides for the establishment of the National Compensatory Afforestation Fund under the Public Account of India and a State Compensatory Afforestation Fund under the Public Account of each state. The Act also seeks to establish national and state compensatory afforestation fund management and planning authorities to manage the funds. The payments made for compensatory afforestation, net present value, and others related to the project will be deposited in the fund. The state funds will receive 90% of the payments, while national fund will receive remaining 10%. These funds will be regulated by state and national CAMPA. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. The collected funds will be utilized for afforestation, regeneration of forest ecosystem, wildlife protection, and infrastructure development. The Compensatory Afforestation Fund Rules 2018, published by the government in exercise of the powers conferred under Section 30 of the Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act 2016, prohibits the use of funds under Compensatory Afforestation Fund for the following activities. Number 1. Payment of salary, travel allowances, medical expenses, etc. to regular, contractual, and casual employees of the State Forest Department for implementing programs in various forest divisions undertaken from the State Fund. Number 2. Payment for legal services for defending cases filed in tribunals or courts not related to the management of state authority. Number 3. Purchase of vehicles or staff cars for officers and heavy vehicles and machines for the State Forest Department for implementing programs in various forest divisions undertaken from the State Fund. Number 4. Construction of residential and official buildings for officers above the Forest Range Officer of the State Forest Department for implementing programs in various forest divisions undertaken from the State Fund. Number 5. Leasing, hiring, and purchase of land for afforestation purposes. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Number 6. Establishment, expansion, and upgradation of zoo and wildlife safari. In April 2019, Ministry of Environment notified that states which have a forest land of more than 75% of their geographical area need not provide non-forest land for compensatory afforestation. Now let's come to question number 34. The term Surkhi used in the Shaka Kushan phase meant for which of the following? Number A. A type of building material used as a substitute for concrete and mortar. Number B. A Central Asian script similar to Brahmi. Number C. A type of gold coins with inscriptions on one side. Number D. The post of provincial governor under the satrap system. So the post of provincial governor under the satrap system. So the correct answer is A. The correct answer is A. That is a type of building material used as a substitute for concrete and mortar. Surkhi is called as strass or brick dust in England. Surkhi is used as a substitute for sand for concrete and mortar and has almost the same function as of sand, but it also imparts some strength and hydraulicity. Hence, option A is the correct answer. So, surkhi is used as a substitute for sand for concrete and mortar and has almost the same function as of sand, but it also imparts some strength and hydraulicity. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Surkhi is made by grinding to powder burnt bricks, brick bats, or burnt clay. Underburnt or overburnt bricks should not be used, nor bricks containing high proportion of sand. When clay is especially burnt for making into surkhi, and addition of 10 to 20% of quicklime will improve its quality. Small clay balls are made for burning. Surkhi for plaster may be made from slightly under burnt bricks and ground very fine. This will improve the hydraulicity of fat lime. The Shaka Kushan phase registered a distinct advance in building activities. They used burnt bricks for flooring and that of tiles for both flooring and roofing. But the use of surkhi and tiles may not have been adopted from outside. Hence, this may have been an indigenous feature which was learned and adopted by the Central Asians who came to India. Now, let's come to question number 34. Aurora australis is a natural light display in the Earth's sky, predominantly seen in the Antarctic region. It results from number A, scattering of white light by the particles in the atmosphere. Number B, total internal reflection of solar light by water droplets in the atmosphere. Number C, disturbances in the magnetosphere caused by solar winds. Number D, collision of particles in the polar stratospheric clouds during a stormy condition. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is disturbances in the magnetosphere caused by solar winds. And aurora, sometimes referred to as polar lights, northern lights, aurora borealis, or southern lights. Aurora australis is a natural light display in the Earth's sky, predominantly seen in the high latitude regions around the Arctic and Antarctic. Even though auroras are best seen at night, they are actually caused by the sun. The sun sends us more than heat and light. It sends lots of other energy and small particles our way. The protective magnetic field around Earth shields us from most of the energy and particles. So the protective magnetic field around Earth shields us from most of the energy and particles. But the sun does not send the same amount of energy all the time. There is a constant streaming solar wind, and there are also solar storms. During one kind of solar storm called a coronal mass ejection, the sun burps out a huge bubble of electrified gas that can travel through space at high speeds. When a solar storm comes towards us, some of the energy and small particles can travel down the magnetic field lines at the north and south poles into Earth's atmosphere. There, the particles interact with gases in our atmosphere, resulting in beautiful displays of light in the sky. Oxygen gives off green and red light. Nitrogen glows blue and purple. Now let's come to question number 36. Consider the following pairs. On the one side we have ocean current, on the other side we have bordering country. Number 1, Canary Current, Morocco. Number 2, ABHYAAS Current, Angola. Number 3, Humboldt Current, Peru. Number 4, Irmingur Current, Iceland. Which of the pairs given above are correctly matched? So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D, that is 1, 3 and 4 only. Canary Current is part of a clockwise setting ocean current system in the North Atlantic Ocean. It branches south from the North Atlantic Drift Current and flows southwestward along the northwest coast of Africa, including Morocco, Mauritania, Cape Verde, as far south as Senegal, before turning westward to eventually join the Atlantic North Equatorial Current. The cool temperature of the water is produced by upwelling caused by offshore winds from the continent. As the current flows around the Canary Islands, it helps to lessen the heating effect of the Sahara to the east. Hence, pair 1 is correctly matched. Next, we have ABHYAAS Current. It is a warm surface oceanic current that forms the western boundary current of the southern Indian Ocean. It flows southward along the southeast coast of Mozambique and the coast of South Africa, before turning westward to join the flow from Africa to Australia. A small part of ABHYAAS water apparently continues westward around the Cape of Good Hope into the Atlantic Ocean. Angola is located on the western side of the African continent. ABHYAAS current doesn't flow along coastal waters of Angola. Hence, pair 2 is not correctly matched. Next, we have the Humboldt Current, also called the Peru Current. It is a cold, low salinity ocean current that flows north along the western coast of South America. The current extends from southern Chile to northern Peru, where cold, upwelled waters intersect warm tropical waters to form the equatorial front. Hence, pair 3 is correctly matched. Next, we have Irmingur Current. It is a branch of the warm North Atlantic Drift Current, flowing generally westward along the south coast of Iceland. It divides into two currents west of Iceland. One proceeds northward and then eastward around Iceland, and the other flows westward and then southwestward, emerging with the East Greenland and eventually the West Greenland currents. Hence, pair 4 is correctly matched. So the correct answer is D. 1, 3 and 4 only. Now let's come to question number 37. Which of the following steps can be taken to reduce inflation? Number 1, increase the cash reserve ratio, that is CRR. Number 2, decrease the repo rate. Number 3, selling of securities by the RBI in the money market. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. That is 1 and 3 only. So 1 and 3 are correct. Bank rate. So bank rate is also known as the discount rate. Thus, whenever a bank suffers from the problem of shortage of funds, it can borrow from the central bank. When the bank rate is increased, the money supply decreases, reducing the inflationary effect. CRR. We have the cash reserve ratio. It is a specific part of the total deposit that is held as a reserve by the commercial banks and is mandatory by the Reserve Bank of India. So, cash reserve ratio is a specific part of the total deposit that is held as a reserve by the commercial banks and is mandated by the Reserve Bank of India. When CRR has increased again, money supply decreases. Repo rate. Repo denotes repurchase option, the rate by which RBI gives loans to other banks, and increase in repo decreases the money supply. Next, we have selling of securities in the money market decreases the money supply in the market, acting as an antidote to inflation. Now let's come to question number 38. Consider the following hills. Number 1, we have Mahadev Hills. Number 2, Mahakal Hills. Number 3, Rajpipla Hills. Number 4, Kaimur Hills. Number 5, Raj Mahal Hills. Which of the hills given above are part of the Satpura mountain range? The correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is 1, 2, and 3. Satpura Mountains. The Satpura Range is a range of hills in central India. The range rises in eastern Gujarat state, running east through the border of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh to the east till Chhattisgarh. Satpura is a series of 7 mountains. It runs in an east-west direction south of the Vindhya and in between Narmada and Tapi, roughly parallel to these rivers. So Satpura is a series of 7 mountains. It runs in an east-west direction south of the Vindhyas and in between Narmada and Tapi, roughly parallel to these rivers. Commencing from the Rajpipli Hills in the west through the Mahadev Hills to the Mahakal Range. It stretches for a distance of about 900 km. These hills appear to be affected by tectonic disturbances. There are evidences that parts of the Satpura have been folded and upheaved. They are regarded as structural uplift or horst. No other east-west tectonic mountain of peninsular India is as high as the Satpura. Most of the hills rise to elevation of 900 to 1000 meter. Dhupgarh near Panchmari on Mahadev Hills is the highest peak. The other peaks are Astamba, Adongar and Amarkantak. Now let's come to Kaimur Hills. Kaimur Range, also spelled Kaimur, is the eastern portion of the Vindhya Range, about 483 kilometers long, extended from around Katangi in Jabalpur district of Madhya Pradesh to around Sasaram in Rohtas district of Bihar. The southern part of the Vindhyan Range up to Katangi is called Bhandar Range. Beyond this point, the escarpment enclosing the landlocked valley of Sirampur and the hill range in continuation is called the Kaimur Range. Then we have the Raj Mahal Hills. The Raj Mahal Hills, forming the northeastern edge of the Chota Nagpur Plateau, are mostly made of basalt and are covered by lava flows, that is, basaltic lava. They run in north-south direction and rise to average elevation of 400 meter. Highest mount is 567 meter. These hills have been dissected into separate plateaus. So the correct answer is C, that is 1, 2 and 3 only. Now let's come to question number 39. The term aggregate measurement of support, AMS, often seen in news, is related to number A, the Agreement on Agriculture of the World Trade Agreement. The Agreement on Agriculture of the World Trade Organization, that is WTO. Number B, funding to developing countries by the International Monetary Fund, that is IMF. Number C, medical facilities provided by the World Health Organization, that is WHO. Number D, funding by the center to the states according to the Niti Aayog. The correct answer is A. That is the Agreement on Agriculture of the World Trade Organization, that is WTO. WTO's Agreement on Agriculture, that is AOA, classifies domestic support or subsidies given by the government to farmers into different categories. That is, segregate measurement of support is another name for the amber box subsidies that pertain to the domestic support clause of the Agreement on Agriculture of WTO. The other two types of subsidies are the green box subsidies and the blue box subsidies. Under Agreement on Agriculture, that is AOA, developing countries can give agricultural subsidies or aggregate measurement of support AMS up to 10% of the value of agricultural production, and developed countries give up to 5%. As per the WTO provisions, AMS is a trade distorting subsidy since it distorts trade by directly influencing production and price in an economy. The AMS is categorized as a reducible, non-permissible, or non-exempted subsidy. Amber box subsidies or AMS, all domestic support measures considered to distort production and trade, with some exceptions, fall into the amber box. So all domestic support measures considered to distort production and trade, with some exceptions, fall into the amber box. For instance, MSP, procurement price, sum total of subsidies on inputs like fertilizer, water, credit, power, etc. The aggregate measurement of support consists of two parts: product-specific subsidies and non-product-specific subsidies. Product-specific subsidy refers to the total level of support provided for each individual agricultural commodity. For example, wheat. AMS is the subsidy given specifically to wheat. Non-product specific subsidy, on the other hand, refers to the total level of support given to the agricultural sector as a whole, that is, subsidies on inputs such as fertilizers, electricity, irrigation, seeds, credit, etc. Usually these non-product subsidies are given to all crops. Hence option A is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 40. Vasco da Gama arrived at Calicut in 1498. Which of the following personalities were living then? Number 1, Babar. Number 2, Rana Sanga. Number 3, Guru Nanak. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is A. The correct answer is A, that is 1, 2, 3. So all three of them are correct. Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese nobleman, was born around 1460 AD. Vasco da Gama sailed from Lisbon on July 8, 1497, and with a crew of 170 men. He arrived at Calicut, now Kozhikode, on May 20, 1498. Da Gama set sail on the first European voyage to India more than 500 years ago. The famous personalities that co-lived are: number 1, we have Guru Nanak. The first Sikh guru and the founder of Sikhism was born in the year 1469 and died in the year 1539. The most important Lodi Sultan, that is Sikandar Lodi, 1458 to 1517. The successor of Bahlul Lodi also co-lived. He was a contemporary of Mahmud Begarha of Gujarat and Rana Sanga, 1472 to 1528 of Mewar. Babur, 1483 to 1530, was also born by then but was yet to invade India. The famous Battle of Khanwa was fought between Babur and Rana Sanga in 1527. Hence all the options are correct. So the answer is A, 1, 2 and 3. Now let's come to question number 41. Consider the following statements with reference to Estimates Committee. Number 1, the committee examines whether the money is well laid out within the limits of the policy implied in the estimates. Number 2, any change in the format of presenting budget estimates need the approval of the Estimates Committee. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is C. That is both 1 and 2. So both the statements 1 and 2 are correct. Estimates Committee is a parliamentary committee in India consisting of 30 members, elected every year by the lower chamber of the parliament, that is the Lok Sabha, from amongst its members, to examine the budget estimates of the union government. The chairperson of the committee is appointed by the Lok Sabha Speaker from amongst its members. A minister cannot be elected as a member of the committee. The term of office of the committee is 1 year. The committee can authorize subcommittees to look into specific issues. Under Rule 310 in Chapter 26 of the Rules of Procedure of Lok Sabha, the Estimates Committee has powers: number 1, to examine the budget estimates and to report what economies, improvement in organization, efficiency or administrative reform consistent with the policy underlying the estimates may be effected. Number 2, to suggest alternative policies in order to bring about efficiency and economy in administration. Number 3, to examine whether the money is well laid out within the limits of the policy implied in the estimates, and hence statement 1 is correct. The fourth point would be to suggest the form in which the estimates shall be presented to Parliament. Estimates Committee does not look into the working of the public sector undertakings for which a separate committee, that is Committee on Public Undertakings, is constituted. Any change in the preparation of budget estimates would need the approval of the Estimates Committee. For instance, before firming up budget 2016-17, the Department of Economic Affairs (DEA) Ministry of Finance had approached the Estimates Committee inter alia for approval to change format of presenting budget estimates. Hence statement 2 is correct. To merge some demands for grants in budget 2016-17 and power to merge or demerge demand for grants in the future without approaching the Estimates Committee. Estimates Committee, via its report submitted to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha in January 2016, gave permission on A and B but denied permission on C. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 42. Paris Pact initiative often seen in the news is number A, an agenda to increase participation of women in the workforce, number B, an international partnership to counter Afghan opiates trafficking and consumption. Number C, a strategy to curb illicit trade of wildlife and wildlife products in Eurasia. Number D, a global initiative against corruption in all its forms, including extortion and bribery. So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B. That is, it is an international partnership to counter Afghan opiates trafficking and consumption. In 2019, the Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance, hosted a meeting of expert working group on Paris Pact initiative on illicit financial flows deriving from the trafficking of opiates originating in Afghanistan. At the Ministerial Conference on Drug Routes from Central Asia in Europe, held in Paris in May 2003, more than 50 countries and international organizations subscribed to the principle of shared responsibility in the fight against opium and heroin trafficking from Afghanistan. In what has become known as the Paris Pact, they also agreed to combine their will and efforts to set up national capabilities and develop regional partnerships against this global threat. Hence, option B is the correct answer. The pact is a group of 58 countries and 23 international organizations affected with drug trafficking of Afghan opiates. Under the ambit of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, that is UNODC, Paris Pact Initiative has addressed the issue of drug problem related to opiates originating in Afghanistan, both at policy and implementation level. It has provided a platform for the member countries and international organizations to coordinate and combat the trafficking and consumption of opiates on the principle of common and shared responsibility. Now let's come to question number 43. Consider the following statements regarding micro ATMs. Number 1, they are point of sale, that is POS device that would enable unbanked rural people to conduct instant transactions. Number 2, they can only be used for cash withdrawals and not for cash deposits. Number 3, they are based on two-factor authentication. So statement 3 is they are based on two-factor authentication. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B, that is 1 and 3 only. So both the statements 1 and 3 are correct. So now let's come to micro ATMs. Micro ATMs are point of sale, that is POS devices that work with minimal power, connect to a central banking service through GPRS. Micro ATM solution enables the unbanked rural people to easily access micro banking services in a very effective manner and conduct instant transactions. Micro ATMs are extensively used in Aadhaar enables payment systems. Hence statement 1 is correct. Micro ATM is meant to be a device that is used by a million business correspondents, that is BC, to deliver basic banking services. The platform will enable business correspondents who could be a local kirana shop owner and will act as micro ATM to conduct instant transactions. The micro platform will enable function through low-cost devices, that is micro ATMs that will be connected to banks across the country. This would enable a person to instantly deposit or withdraw funds regardless of the bank associated with a particular BC. This device will be based on a mobile phone connection. This machine comes with a fingerprint scanner attached to it. The basic transactions types to be supported by micro ATM are deposit, withdrawal, fund transfer, and balance enquiry. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. ATMs work on two-factor authentication. One is the chip PIN debit card itself, and the other is the PIN, personal identification number. Similarly, micro ATMs are also based on two-factor authentication. The micro ATM will support the following means of authentication for interoperable transactions. Number 1, Aadhaar plus biometric. Number 2, Aadhaar plus OTP. Number 3, magnetic strip card plus biometric. Number 4, magnetic strip card plus OTP. Number 5, magnetic strip card plus bank PIN. Hence statement 3 is correct. What are the advantages of micro ATMs? Number 1, the cost of deployment of a micro ATM is lesser than that of an ordinary ATM. ATMs need at least 80 to 100 transactions a day to be viable as they cost several lakhs. Micro ATM cost less than rupees 20,000. Number 2, it is portable. Number 3, micro ATM has connectivity through GSM, hence it can travel from village to village. Now let's come to question number 44. Consider the following pairs of wetlands and rivers passing through or draining into them. On one side we have wetland, on the other side we have river. Number 1 we have Chilka Lake, Daya. Number 2 Pongdam Lake, Bias. Number 3 Astamudi Lake, Kalada. Which of the pairs given above are correctly matched? The correct answer is D, that is 1, 2 and 3. So all of them are correctly matched. Now let's come to Astamudi Lake. Astamudi Kayal is located in the Kollam district of Kerala. Astamudi means 8 breadths. Asta 8, Mudi hair breadths. Indicative of the lake's topography with its multiple branches, the lake is also called the gateway to the backwaters of Kerala. Astamudi wetland was included in the list of wetlands of international importance as defined by the Ramsar Convention for the Conservation and Sustainable Utilization of Wetlands. Kalada River is the major river discharging into the Astamudi Lake. The Kalada River, which originates from the Kulatupuza Hills, Western Ghats, is formed by the confluence of three rivers, that is, Kulatupuza, Turnipuja, and Kalturuti Puja. Hence, pair 3 is correctly matched. Located at the mouth of the Daya River, Chilka Lake is the largest coastal lagoon in India and also the second largest saltwater lagoon in the world after the New Caledonian Barrier Reef in New Caledonia. Daya bifurcate and split into two tributaries, namely Daya and Luna River, and joined again at the lower ridge before inflow or discharging to Chilka Lake. In 1981, Chilka Lake has designated the first Indian wetland of international importance under the Ramsar Convention. Being richly famous for the presence of aquatic wildlife, Chilka Lake Sanctuary also houses Irrawaddy dolphins, which are different from the other dolphins as their color and dorsal fin being less prominent. Apart from the avifaunal species, the region also highlights varied wild animals such as black buck, golden jackals, spotted deer, and hyenas. Hence, pair 1 is correctly matched. The Pong wetland, also called Maharana Pratap Sagar, one of the largest man-made wetlands of northern India, was formed with the construction of a dam across the Beas River in 1975 and is located in district Kangra in Himachal Pradesh. The reservoir or the lake is a well-known wildlife sanctuary and one of the 27 international wetland sites declared in India by the Ramsar Convention. Hence, pair 2 is correctly matched. Now let's come to question number 45. Which of the following statements about Viceroy Lord Mayo is correct? Number A. During his viceroyalty, the Indian National Congress came into being. Number B. He is popularly called as the father of local self-government in India. Number C. He was the only viceroy of India to be murdered in office. Number D. High courts of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras were established during the tenure of Lord Mayo. So the correct answer is C. That is, he was the only Viceroy of India to be murdered in office. Lord Mayo, Viceroy of India from 12 January 1869 to 8 February 1872. He started the process of decentralization of finance. In foreign affairs, he followed the policy of non-intervention and the policy of masterly inactivity initiated by his predecessor. He welcomed Sher Ali Amin of Kabul at Ambala and held a darbar in his honor. In 1871, India's first census was carried out on Mayo's orders. He organized the Statistical Survey of India. He had also set up the Department of Revenue, Agriculture and Commerce. Lord Mayo took interest in the prison reforms, especially the convict of settlements at the Andaman Islands. The most important legal reform during his time was the passage of the Indian Evidence Act in 1872. He was the only Viceroy of India to be murdered in office. While visiting the convict settlement at Port Blair in the Andaman Islands in 1872 for the purpose of inspection, he was assassinated by a Pathan convict. Hence, option C is the correct answer. Lord Ripon is known to have granted the Indians their first taste of freedom by introducing the local self-government in 1882. Thus, he is known as the father of local self-government in India. Hence, option B is not correct. The first Famine Commission was set up in 1878 during the tenure of Lord Lytton, under the chairmanship of Sir Richard Starcher. The commission recommended state interference in food trade in the event of famine. The high courts at Bombay, Madras and Calcutta were established in the year 1861 under the Indian High Courts Act 1861. Lord Canning was the then Viceroy of India, hence option D is not correct. The Indian National Congress came into being in the year 1885 during the Viceroyalty of Lord Dufferin. Hence option A is not correct. Now let's come to question number 46. Consider the following. Number 1, we have cooking fuel. Number 2, occupation. Number 3, health insurance. Number 4, electricity. Number 5, child mortality. Number 6, sanitation. Which of the indicators given above are used to measure global multi-dimensional poverty index? So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is 1, 4, 5 and 6. So the correct answer is C, that is 1, 4, 5 and 6. Cooking fuel, electricity, child mortality and sanitation. Recently, the 2020 Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, that is MPI, was recently released. About Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, that is MPI, it was launched by the UNDP and the OPHI in 2010. MPI uses 3 dimensions and 10 indicators, which are number 1, education, years of schooling and child enrollment, 1/6 weightage each, total 2/6. Health, child mortality and nutrition, 1/6 weightage each, total 2/6. Hence option 5 is correct. Standard of living, electricity, flooring, drinking water, sanitation, cooking fuel and assets, 1/18th weightage each, total 2/6. Hence options 1, 4 and 6 are correct. A person is multidimensionally poor if she or he is deprived in 1/3 or more, means 33% or more of the weighted indicators out of the 10 indicators. Those who are deprived in 1/2 or more of the weighted indicators are considered living in extreme multidimensional poverty. Now let's come to question number 47. The Constitution of India provides for special rights to religious minorities to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. In this context, which of the following are the special rights enjoyed by religious minority education institutions, that is MEIs? Statement 1. They are out of the purview of reservation policy under Article 15. Number 2. They can have a reservation of up to 50% for the student of their own community. Number 3. They are exempted from 25% reservation for children belonging to the economically weaker section, that is EWS, under the Right to Education Act, that is RTE 2009. Number 4, the medical colleges run by minority communities are exempted from admitting students through the Common National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test, that is NEET, NEET. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is 1, 2, 3 are correct. Constitutional provisions regulating minority institutions. Article 30 of the Constitution deals with the right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. Under Article 30, Clause 1, all minorities, whether based on religion or language, have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. The National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions (NCMEI) Act defines a minority means a community notified as such by the central government. The NCMEI Act defines MEI as a college or an educational institution established and administered by a minority or minorities. As per the notification of the Government of India, there are 6 notified religious minority communities. We have Muslim, Sikh, Christian, Buddhist, Parsis, and Jain. National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions (NCMEI) is a quasi-judicial body. It regulates the certification of minority educational institutions all over India. It decides on disputes regarding affiliation of a minority educational institution to a university. It has the power to inquire suo motu into complaints regarding deprivation or violation of rights of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. It specifies measures to promote and preserve the minority status and character of institutions of their choice established by minorities. So let's come to eligibility criteria for MEIs. Number 1, the educational institution is established and is administered by the minority community. Number 2, if it is run by a trust or a registered society, the majority of members must be from the minority community. Number 3, it has been established for the benefit of the minority community. Let's come to special rights enjoyed by religious minority institutions. Include number 1, in respect of control over representatives, minority educational institutions have substantially more prominent power than other institutions. Number 2, MEIs are out of the purview of reservation policy under Article 15, hence statement 1 is correct. Number 3, MEIs can have a reservation of up to 50% for the student of their own community. Hence statement 3 is correct. Let's come to number 4. Section 12 of the Right to Education Act RTE 2009, which mandates a 25% reservation for children belonging to the economically weaker section, that is EWS, is also not applicable on MEI. Hence statement 3 is correct. Point number 5, they can also have a separate fee structure but not allowed to charge a capitation fee. Recently, the Supreme Court has ruled that the National Eligibility Cum Entrance Test (NEET) is mandatory for admission to medical colleges run by religious and linguistic minority communities. It observed that NEET for admission to graduate and postgraduate medical and dental courses does not violate the rights of minorities under the Constitution. The court further observed that need is a regulatory measure that is in the larger national interest. The regulatory measures in no way interfere with the rights to administer the institution by the religious or linguistic minorities. Hence, statement 4 is not correct. So, the correct option is C, that is 1, 2, and 3 only. Question number 48. Polycrack technology recently seen in the news is used in number A. Conversion of waste to energy, number B. Cleaning of oil spills, number C. Human tissue regeneration, number D. Testing of COVID-19 patients. So question number 48. The correct answer is A, that is conversion of waste to energy. Indian Railways has recently commissioned a waste to energy plant using patented technology called Polycrack, a first of its kind in Indian Railways and fourth in India. It is world's first patented heterogeneous catalytic process which converts multiple feedstocks into hydrocarbon liquid fuels, gas, carbon, and water. Polycrack plant can be fed with all types of plastic, petroleum sludge, unsegregated MSW, that is municipal solid waste with moisture up to 50%, e-waste, automobile fluff, organic waste including bamboo, garden waste, etc., and jatropha fruit and palm bunch. Hence, option A is the correct answer. The process is a closed-loop system and does not emit any hazardous pollutants into the atmosphere. The combustible, non-condensed gases are reused for providing energy to the entire system, and thus the only emission comes from the combustion of gaseous fuels. So the only emission comes from the combustion of gaseous fuels. The emissions from the combustion are found to be much less than prescribed environmental norms. These processes will produce energy in the form of light diesel oil, which is used to light furnaces. Polycrack has the following advantages over the conventional approach of treating solid waste. Number 1, pre-segregation of waste is not required to reform the waste. Waste is collected directly. Waste as collected can be directly fed into Polycrack. So in this Polycrack, waste as collected can be directly fed. It has high tolerance to moisture, hence drying of waste is not required. So drying of waste is not required. There is no atmospheric emission during the process, unlike other conventional methods, except for combustion gases which have pollutants less than the prescribed norms the world over. Next point, next advantage is biological decomposition is not allowed as the waste is treated as it is received. The next advantage is the footprint of the plant is small, hence the area required for installing the plant is less when compared with conventional method of processing. The last advantage would be all constituents are converted into valuable energy, thereby making it zero discharge process. So the correct answer is A. Now let's come to question number 49. With reference to the lake ecosystem, consider the following statements. Number 1. In summers, the benthic organisms experience warmer temperatures than Houston. Number 2. Large-scale mixing of water in lakes takes place during the spring and autumn seasons. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is B. That is 2 only. Only statement 2 is correct. Large scale mixing of water in lakes takes place during the spring and autumn seasons. Statement 1 is not correct. Temperature, light, and wind are three of the main factors that affect the physical characteristics of a lake. Thermal gratification refers to a lake's three main layers, each with a different temperature range. A lake's shallowest layer is the epilimnion. So the lake's shallowest layer is the epilimnion. Its middle layer is the metalimnion or thermocline. The deepest layer is the hypolimnion. So the shallowest it would be epilimnion, and the middle it would be metalimnion or thermocline, and the deepest layer would be hypolimnion. Benthic animals are the organisms who live at the lowest level of a body of water such as a lake or ocean. They are sometimes called benthos and can even be permanently attached to the bottom of the water bodies. During summers, the benthic organisms experience cooler temperatures than those on surface. Neuston group of organisms found on top of or attached to the underside of the surface film of water. The Neuston includes insects such as whirligig beetles. So it includes insects such as whirligig beetles and water striders, some spiders and protozoans, and occasional worms, snails, insect larvae, and hydras. Lakes experience lake turnover on a large scale. The middle layer, the thermocline, mixes and turns over throughout the year. It turns over due to climate, nutrient variations, and geologic activity such as earthquakes. However, major lake turnover happens during the fall and spring when the lakes cool and warm waters mix and readjust. Lake turnover changes with the seasons. During the summer, the epilimnion or surface layer is the warmest. It is heated by the sun. The deepest layer, the hypolimnion, is the coldest. The sun's radiation does not reach this cold, dark layer. Now let's come to statement 2. And statement 2 is correct. During the fall, the warm surface water begins to cool. As water cools, it becomes more dense, causing it to sink. This cold, dense water sinks to the bottom of the lake. It forces the water in the hypolimnion to rise. During the winter, the epilimnion is coldest because it is exposed to wind, snow, and low air temperatures. The hypolimnion is the warmest. It is insulated by the earth. This is why there is ice on lakes during the winter, while fish swim in slightly warmer liquid water beneath. During the spring, the lake turns over again. The cold surface water sinks to the bottom, forcing the warmer, less dense water upward. So the correct answer is B, that is 2 only. Now let's come to question number 50. Consider the following statements in the context of Indian traditional medicine systems. Number 1. Of the Ayush systems, only Yunnani is of non-Indian origin. Number 2. Siddha system is mainly practiced in the Himalayan states of India. Number 3. Traditional Knowledge Digital Library Initiative helps protect the traditional Indian medicine systems by storing ancient text on the same. Number 4. The Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940, which regulates the sale of regular and homeopathic drugs also regulates the sale of Ayurvedic and Unani drugs. Which of the statements given above are correct? So the correct answer is C. So the correct answer is C, that is 3 and 4 only. So statement 3 and 4 are correct. Traditional Knowledge Digital Library (TKDL) initiative helps protect the traditional Indian medicine systems by storing ancient text on the same. Number 4, the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940, which regulates the sale of regular and homeopathic drugs, also regulates the sale of Ayurvedic and Unani drugs. The healthcare needs of more than 70% population and livelihood of millions of people in India are dependent on traditional medicine. The Indian systems of medicine are among the well-known global traditional systems of medicine. The system of medicines which are considered to be Indian in origin, or the systems of medicine which have come to India from outside and got assimilated into Indian culture, are known as Indian systems of medicine. India has the unique distinction of having 6 recognized systems of medicine in this category. They are: number 1, Ayurveda; number 2, Siddha; number 3, Unani and Yoga. Then we have number 4, Naturopathy. Then number 5, Homeopathy. And last one is SOWA and RIGPA. Ayurveda literally means the science of life. The antique Vedic texts have scattered references of Ayurvedic remedies and allied aspects of medicine and health. Atharva Veda mainly deals with extensive Ayurvedic information. That is why Ayurveda is said to be the offshoot of Atharva Veda. The concepts and practices of yoga originated in India about several thousand years ago. Yoga is one of the 6 systems of Vedic philosophy. Maharishi Patanjali, rightly called the father of yoga, compiled and defined various aspects of yoga systematically in his Yoga Sutras. He advocated the Eightfold Path of Yoga, popularly known as Astanga Yoga, for all-round development of human beings. Next, we have the Yunnani system, originated in Greece. The foundation of the Yunnani system was laid by Hippocrates. Unani medicines got enriched by imbibing what was best in the contemporary systems of traditional medicines in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Persia, India, China, and other Middle East countries. In India, the Unani system of medicine was introduced by Arabs, and soon it took firm roots. The Delhi Sultans provided patronage to the scholars of the Unani system and even enrolled some as state employees and court physicians. During the 13th and 17th century AD, Unani medicine had its heyday in India. Next, we have Siddha System. Siddha system of medicine is practiced in some parts of South India, especially in the state of Tamil Nadu. It has a close affinity to Ayurveda, yet it maintains a distinctive identity of its own. This system has come to be known to be closely identified with Tamil civilization. The term Siddha has come from Siddhi, which means achievement. Siddhars were the men who achieved supreme knowledge in the field of medicine, yoga, or tapa, that is, meditation. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. Now, let's come to homeopathy. It was developed in the late 18th century by Samuel Hahnemann. So it was established or developed in the late 18th century by Samuel Hahnemann, a respected doctor in Germany. The word homeopathy is derived from two Greek words, homo, homoios, homoios. That means similar. So it is derived from two Greek words. The first word is homoios, which means similar, and next we have pathos. It means suffering. This means in homeopathy, natural diseases are treated with substances that produce effects similar to the suffering. The key principle of this medical approach is similia similibus curantur. Homeopaths generally refer to this as like be treated with likes. The system was propounded by a German physician, Dr. Christian Friedrich Samuel Hahnemann. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. Now let's come to Sowa Rigpa, commonly known as the Amchi system of medicine, is one of the oldest living and well documented medical traditions of the world. It has been popularly practiced in Tibet, Mongolia, Bhutan, some parts of China, Nepal, Himalayan regions of India, and few parts of former Soviet Union, etc. There are various schools of thought about the origin of this medical tradition. The majority of theory and practice of Sowa Rigpa is similar to Ayurveda. Next, we have Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. TKDL is a pioneering initiative of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research (CSIR) to protect Indian traditional medicinal knowledge and prevent its misappropriation at international patent offices. Traditional Knowledge Digital Library has overcome the language and format barrier by systematically and scientifically converting and structuring the available contents of the ancient texts on the Indian systems of medicines, that is Ayurveda, Siddha, Yunan, Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, and Sowa Rigpa, as well as Yoga, into 5 international languages, namely English, Japanese, French, German, and Spanish. With the help of information technology tools and an innovative classification system. Traditional Knowledge Resource Classification TKRC. TKDL is proving to be an effective deterrent against biopiracy and has been recognized internationally as a unique effort. Hence, statement 3 is correct. The regulatory and quality control mechanism for Ayurvedic, Siddha, Unani, and homeopathic drugs has been established in the country in accordance with the provisions of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 and the Drugs and Cosmetics Rules 1945. Exclusive provisions exist in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 and rules thereunder for the licensing, manufacturing, labeling, shelf-life, and testing of these drugs. Central government is vested with the powers to make and amend the legal provisions and to give directions to the state governments. State governments are responsible to enforce the legal provisions for Ayush drugs, for which licensing authorities or drug controllers are appointed in the states. Hence, statement 4 is correct. So the correct answer is C, that is 3 and 4. So that's all guys. See you in my next video. Bye.